DeepSeek AI startup went from virtually unknown to the talk of the town this week, the talk of the world, and for all the wrong reasons. The main question being asked, does its claims about the cost and power efficiency stack up? Trump's AI czar, David Sachs, just one person throwing doubt on this claim, to have created the system for $6 million.
A report he cited puts the number somewhere closer to $1 billion.
One of the authors of that report joins us now, SemiAnalysis President Doug O'Laughlin, or Laughlin. Doug, I will correct you. Is it O'Laughlin?
It's O'Laughlin.
O'Laughlin. Doug, great to see you. I talked to a couple of people in tech on Monday when NVIDIA stock was collapsing, and their take was that, yep, DeepSeek is probably piggybacking on OpenAI and GPT-4. And there's this amount of money that's being cited, it can't be that low. But what else do you know or have found out about what's really afoot here with DeepSeek's model?
So some aspects of the report are true. 6 million in pre-training, right? That is one small part of a much bigger pie in what it takes to have a leading edge capability model. And the people who you talked to on Monday were completely right. One of the things that has really helped them be so successful is some form of distillation. That means taking a much better American model from OpenAI and essentially copying the answers to train a smaller model to be more efficient. And so those are some things that I think are important to consider. There's definitely some interesting questions, right? Microsoft and OpenAI are looking into seeing if they stole potentially important key IP. The reason why is because at least one of the main ways that they're scaling this model is extremely similar to how they've done it with OpenAI's model 01.
Doug, why can't we do all of this in the United States? I mean, why can't we do it?
So there's two aspects to it, right? We can do some of it in the United States. OpenAI, for example, they're the best in the world, no doubt. NVIDIA, best in the world, no doubt. Now, it's one thing to design the models, to design the chips, but to make the chips is one of our biggest lack. But everything else, we have it here first.
Okay, so, but why can't we build those chips in the United States? Why can't we do that?
So no, that's a really hard question. So look, there's pretty much one American semiconductor company
Doug. That's why I want to know.
Okay, so look, it's pretty complicated. Okay, Intel's the company who should be able to do it. Now, there's a lot of reasons why Intel, the company, is failing to do that. Now, I think we have a lot of the core foundational
Micron
IP,
does some of
right?
it.
But no, that's totally different. So there's a difference between memory and logic, right? Logic's a totally different type of chip, and logic is much more expensive and much harder. So it's kind of like apples to oranges, right? Maybe one of them is a motorcycle, the other one is an SUV. The SUV is a little harder to make, right? And pretty much we can't do logic in the United States. Now that's I don't think it's a technology issue. I think it's a cultural issue. I think Intel is really hurting, and it's kind of their fault for messing up the recipe.
But I want Doug. But the takeaway is America is just steaming ahead in terms of chip development, because all of the big players are either they have chips or working on chips. They have models or working on models. It is just the manufacturing of the chips needed that is the missing piece here. But what this country is doing is truly phenomenal.
Yeah, I would agree with that. We invented semiconductors. We invented, AI, essentially. Many aspects are first and foremost American. Really what we're seeing, at least on the manufacturing side, is that some American companies have kind of lost their way. The reality is that's a little bit of Intel's fault. And there needs to be a refocusing, but I feel like it's almost, we don't want to take away from the steam of, like, for example, NVIDIA is the best and most important semiconductor company in the entire world. What they do, they're so good. One of the jokes is essentially like, if they lowered their price, their competitors would have to give away their chips for free. They were at the bleeding edge of everything that's possible in terms of design, technology, and cost. So I don't think, we just have aspects that we're missing in the puzzle. There's multiple pieces to make a healthy AI and semiconductor manufacturing ecosystem, and we're missing a piece. So,
and we've got plenty of data to train all those models that are coming, and China will just steal it.
Thank you, Doug.
O'Laughlin.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.